Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 1298. Departure. As the residents of Constant were stunned by the miracle in front of them, Klein had already carried his suitcase and left the city with the roads. After creating such a huge commotion, he was worried that Zerdal would lock onto his location, so he didn't dare to stay any longer. With his present level and strength, he wasn't too afraid of fighting Zerdal head-on. However, he didn't wish to be ambushed. For beyonders of the seer pathway, being prepared and not was completely different. Once Klein revealed his location and didn't leave in time, an unprepared him would end up facing Zerdal. He could imagine that even if he was now Sapphira Castle's owner and still had one more resurrection chance, there was also a huge risk of completely perishing. Furthermore, he didn't know what state Amon was in right now. Was he still being pursued by the true creator? Was it possible for him to suddenly appear by his side and steal everything? Due to this thought, Klein once again embarked on his journey. In the basement of a house in Southville County. The few sequence 7 beyonders of the Abraham family gathered here according to a prior agreement. That's pretty much it. Dorian Gray shared what Mr. Dorr had said in its entirety through his student Furs. The years of exile and being sealed was enough to drive the ancestor crazy. He only occasionally regains lucidity. Even just directly speaking to him can result in mental corruption from his evil intent. A man wearing gold-rimmed glasses looking like a university professor sighed. So that's the reason. His expression revealed some relief, as if he could finally admit that the curse was a result of the ancestors' pleas for help. After a 1-second pause, the man said with a determined expression, "We have to think of a way to help the ancestor escape. This way, our curse will be completely removed." Verdu, are you crazy? If a crazy king of angels returns, it will destroy the entire family. Dorian couldn't help but chide him. The man named Verdu looked at the other family members and said with a sullen expression, "That's why we have to hurry. While the ancestor still has a portion of his lucidity, we should let him return to the real world. Once he escapes from his exiled, sealed state and has enough anchors, he would definitely gradually regain his rationality." Dorian, you've degenerated. You no longer wish to restore the glory of our family, to allow us to return to the apex of the northern and southern continent. You only wish to live a stable but mediocre life. Besides, can you be sure that Mr. Fool will keep providing blessings? Perhaps one day, he will be like the 7 deities who won't respond to most prayers. Dorian fell silent for a few seconds. However, the risk in this area will definitely be lower than helping the ancestor escape. Ever since I believed in Mr. Fool and sincerely prayed to him, I haven't been affected by the full moon ravings for many months. If not for the fact that I'm no longer young, I'd even have the confidence of consuming a sequence 6 scribe potion. Even so, given time, I still have a good chance of advancing. If someone like me who's older than a certain age can do it, our next generation and their descendants will definitely be able to break free from our original restrictions and have a chance to become demigods. Hearing Dorian's words, the 2 men and 2 ladies other than Verdun nodded in agreement. They had already made some of their descendants believe in Mr. Fool, and through a few months of observation, they were certain that it was effective. They were planning on praying to Mr. Fool themselves. Noticing Verdun's nasty expression, Dorian softened his tone and said, "More importantly, we don't have the strength to complete the ritual at all. A demigod of any pathway is not easy to deal with. Among them, the corresponding demigods of the seer and marauder are cunning, bizarre, and dangerous. Even if we're willing to sacrifice ourselves and use a grade 0 sealed artifact, it's difficult to capture them." Verdun nudged his gold-rimmed spectacles and slowly exhaled. "I won't stop you from changing your faith to the Fool. If you can get that existence's help to aid the ancestors' escape, that would be the best development. But before that, I will do my best to prepare the ritual. Dorian, you have to remember that the bloodline and glory of the Abraham family comes from the ancestor. Without him, there will be no us. If this matter requires a sacrifice, then I'll do it." He stood up, put on his hat, and walked out of the basement. Dorian watched him leave and finally sighed. Verdun has been studying all kinds of mysticism information, hoping to find a way to completely resolve the family's curse. I believe that such persistence is already in his blood. The other Abraham family members nodded in unison. After he confirms that he can't complete the ritual, he should give up. They too hoped that Verdu would succeed, but they found it virtually impossible. On Blue Mountain Island, where Byam was located, the private harbor that originally belonged to the resistance, a group of workers, who had just finished laying the gas pipes, were just about to find a place to rest and wait for the carriage sent by the Church of the Sea God to ferry them back to Byam when they saw the half-giants purportedly from the northern Fairfax Islands carry heavy, grayish-white stone materials. Each step left an imprint on the land. These workers had participated in the construction of harbors, cathedrals, and art museums, so they knew how heavy the grayish-white stone materials were. They remembered that, even with the help of logs, horses, and machinery, it was very difficult for people to transport such stone materials. Yet the half-giants held them as easily as holding toys. This display of strength was simply ridiculous. When Derek saw that the outer walls and some of the buildings of the town had been built under the efforts of the City of Silver's reconnaissance team, he nodded and said to Lievel and Candace, "It's time to return to the City of Silver and tell the chief about the situation here." None of the members of the City of Silver's reconnaissance team objected. They were very excited as they agreed with Elder Derek's decision. Although they hadn't been here for long, they had long fallen in love with this new hometown. They had fallen in love with the warmth of the sun in the day and the peace of the crimson moon in the night. They couldn't wait to let their family and friends experience it and enjoy it. Upon seeing this, Derek subconsciously straightened his back. He controlled himself and didn't let his smile appear. He calmly said to Candace, "Come back to the City of Silver with me and tell the chief and the other elders of the 6-member council about the situation here. Oh, you too, G-Nord. Lievel, you're in charge of maintaining order here." He was worried that he wouldn't be able to convince the current chief, Waite Chermont, and company, so he decided on bringing 2 companions with him. After settling the corresponding matters, Derek led Candace and G-Nord to a secluded spot in the new City of Silver. He lowered his head, clasped his hands, and prayed to Mr. Fool, making a wish to return to the City of Silver immediately. Without a sound, the scene around them became blurry and stretched. Then, it immediately fixed and quickly became clear. In front of their eyes, they saw a city wall with weeds fluttering in the air. In just a few seconds, Derek and his 2 subordinates returned to the entrance of the City of Silver. This is a miracle. Candace rubbed her eyes with a hand that wasn't holding a weapon, and marveled from the bottom of her heart. She had imagined many ways of returning to the City of Silver, but she had never thought of returning so directly. To her, this was a miracle bestowed by a deity. G-Nord shook the glass lantern in his hand and muttered without thinking, "This is much brighter than the beast hide lantern." Before he could finish his sentence, he came to his senses and revealed a pure smile without a hint of gloominess. This time, they would be the messengers of dawn who would lead the residents of the City of Silver out of the forsaken land of the gods. Derek heaved a sigh of relief and maintained his stern expression. "Let's immediately find the chief and arrange for everyone to carry out the migration." He had heard Mr. Hangman talk about many matters that failed at the cusp of success. He didn't wish for the City of Silver to have such an outcome. As such, all the other matters had to be done as quickly as possible. When they passed through the door, the City of Silver residents in charge of guarding the door looked curiously at the 3 scouts and saw hope from their rosy, glowing faces. "Did Lievel and the others not come back?" someone asked worriedly, afraid that the other members of the reconnaissance team had already sacrificed themselves. Derek simply replied, "They've remained in the outside world to build a temporary camp." The guards didn't ask further, afraid that they would delay their time. They watched as Derek and company headed for the Twin Towers. Not long after, Derek, Candace, and G-Nord saw Chief Waite Chermont and the other members of the 6-member council. They described the key points of what they saw and heard in the outside world. At the end of the report, they even took out pocket watches, music boxes, and other exquisite machinery to prove it. The members of the 6-member council, other than the 2.5-meter tall Waite Chermont, who had a tattooed symbol on his head, and Derek, looked at each other and sighed. Your experience is like a dream. No, I can't even dream of such a scene. With that said, he solemnly asked, has the dungeon meant to store the sealed artifacts been constructed? That was the first building we completed. Derek gave an extremely clear answer. Waite nodded slightly and immediately issued an order. Get everyone to bring their necessary items and gather at the training ground. To prevent any accidents, we will directly pray to Mr. Fool and ask him to transfer us over. Having said that, Waite pondered for a moment and said, Mr. Fool has previously sent a revelation to let us wait for another 3 hours for the ancient survivors from Moon City to rendezvous with us. However, this doesn't affect our preparations ahead of time. Also, tell everyone that the environment in Moon City is very tough. Many of them have deformities. We have to look at them normally. Although the City of Silver had the black-faced grass as their staple, they would eat the flesh of monsters from time to time to replenish their strength. This made them occasionally have deformed children. Therefore, everyone was no stranger to this phenomenon. All right. The other members of the 6-member council responded without any hesitation, revealing an irresistible, excited expression. This time, they were no longer seeing the light, but were directly welcoming the day.